Hello, hello, hello. It is time for, well, not a UFC breakdown because there is no UFC card this weekend. And I'm a little bit disappointed by the Bellator offering, honestly. It's not that it doesn't have good fights on it. I'm looking forward to Lance Gibson Jr. versus Vladimir Tokov on the undercard. That's a cool undercard fight. That's interesting. Joey Davis is a big prospect that should be, pretty interesting long term. You've got, some Bellator regulars. You've got Adam Pacalati on there versus Canadian Nandel Nalo, pardon me. You have Sullivan Cauley, who I'm excited about as a prospect as well. You've got the return of Hustam Habilov after a long time away, and his end of his UFC tenure. You've got Kanzagano Liam McCourt, which is not a good fight, but it's an important one. And you've got you have a terrible main event. Oh my God, Marcelo Gome versus Daniel James. Oh, talk about a fight I have zero excitement for. Anyways, and then you've got PFL, which is not much better. But like, here's the thing: I give PFL a lot of slack for like lackluster matchmaking because it's the whole what you would call it. It's the whole league setup. Like, I'm not going to get angry with the NBA for having, like, I don't know, Minnesota versus Houston and like Charlotte versus Orlando on a night or whatever. Like, they got to fight each other. They got to do their thing. So like, I can't really complain. And even then, they've got some actually pretty compelling matchups. Rob Wilkins, Thiago Santos. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to Chris Wade, Bubba Jenkins now. But during it, I will probably lose my mind. That's usually how it works with Bubba Jenkins fights. And Alejandro Flores versus Daniel Torres. That's pretty fun. Sung Bin Jo versus Jesus Pinedo. Also kind of interesting. And I am fascinated by how Ipika Sangadai will do as a 205er as he takes on Corey Hendricks. And Corey Hendricks is a pretty solid example of the whole thing. So there's okay. Like there's not one like hot dynamite fight. And admittedly, the main event of Brian Longane versus Marlon Moraes, not super interesting. We'll get to that later. But before I get into breaking down the fights and the other news that comes in, I got a couple other news items, but I'll save the controversial spicy bit about like fighter pay and politics and Valentina Shevchenko for the end. But before I do, please give me a like, follow, subscribe, whatever it happens to be on the platform you're enjoying me on. It helps out a lot. I like to know what the content is hitting on, what the content is not hitting on. And additionally, there is a bunch of links down below that lead to a Discord where you will find a mixed martial arts simulator, also just a general cool MMA community. And also you will find links to my gaming stuff because why not? I do Twitch, I do YouTube gaming. So there you go. Let us talk about real quick. I do want to get this one out of the way before we get into anything else. Manel Kape, oh my lord. As of like 2 days ago, Manel Kape is still going hard for Alex Perez off of their fight cancellation from last weekend. My lord. Those who don't know, because I didn't really touch on it in the review, because at the time I didn't have specifics. I have specifics now. Perez had a seizure before the fight, and obviously the fight got pulled. Apparently, it was scary enough that his teammates were like freaked out legitimately, and Kape is not having it. No. Perez is afraid of Kape and has inferior genes and stuff. It got to a weird like blame the ancestors place with Manel Kape. I don't really know if you want to go there, but hey, okay, whatever, you do you. It's a bit weird. It's not a great look, but hey, Manel Kape was kind of already a jackass before this, so this is just an escalation as opposed to like, man, we didn't know Manel Kape was a jackass. Nah, we knew. This is just like a little bit extra. Okay, let's get on to the Bellator 293 card here. Marcelo Gomez versus Daniel James. Like I said, this is a terrible main event. It's a heavyweight main event, which is immediately like a strike against it because, like it or not, heavyweight is not very deep. There are very, very few heavyweight fighters in the world at any given time that I am excited to see fight. I'm excited to see Stipe versus John Jones, mostly for nostalgia. I'm kind of excited for Curtis Blades versus Sergey Pavlovich. Tom Aspinall has my attention. Outside of the UFC, I don't mind Philip DeFries. It's pretty okay. But and I guess Linton Vassell, I guess, is fascinating to me because it keeps working and I don't think it should. We'll put it that way. But like that's kind of about it. So when you put Marcelo Gomez and Daniel James in there as a main event, I don't even think it's the best fight on this card. Like Zingano McCourt has more import. Jeffrey and Salter has more up and coming value, I guess. Even Jaleel Willis versus Hustam Habilov probably has more value than this fight. I have no idea why it's at the top of the card. I do know that there is a long-standing idea in MMA that heavyweights draw. And I'm assuming there's some evidence behind that, but I've never honestly been convinced. So, I mean, that could be it. I'm taking Gome. Daniel James is just not very good. Like, Daniel James is lethal. He's a finisher. He knocks people out. He's powerful, but it really is kind of like just a puncher's chance. And Gome is fairly tough, fairly durable, has the basic heavyweight requirements in that regard, can strike, can grapple, can wrestle. And if James knocks him out in like the second round or something, I'm not going to be surprised. I'm not going to be stunned. Daniel James knocking out anybody doesn't stun me. But he's kind of like the Cheeto Vera Cordy Sandhagen matchup last weekend from the UFC. Mind you, on a tremendously lower level, where it's like you have a style that gives away rounds, that doesn't really, that relies on that power, on that venom to actually get a win. And as a result, I'm probably going to pick against you repetitively. And you know what? When he wins, historically, and if he wins this fight, I'll take my licks and probably not change my mind. But I can't trust that kind of style against anyone who's just like actually fairly durable and seasoned. So yeah, I'm going with Gome by decision. He's not really a finisher. So we'll go with that. He is the favorite, minus 150 to minus 160. James is plus 120 to plus 130 on the betting odds. Feels about right. You have to respect the power, but honestly, there's not an element of this game that I think James is actually better than Gome at. Kat Zingano versus Liam McCourt. Again, I'm going to be super short on this one. Kat Zingano in her prime would have won this fight incredibly easily. She would have picked up a TKO or a submission. I've never thought Liam McCourt is particularly good. She's not bad. She's not bad. I want to make that clear. If you're a Liam McCourt fan, I'm not coming for you. Like, she's fine. She does a little bit of everything, whatever, kind of well-rounded. But she's not some amazing athlete. She's not some amazing deep technician in any level. She has lost to the likes of Sinead Kavanagh, who has a fairly similar game, if we're being entirely honest, to Zingano, in the sense of like, you know, kind of like a power grappler. And her biggest win is, I don't even know. Like, looking, wow, okay, she has a win over Mena and Firo back in 2018, but keep in mind, it's worth noticing, McCourt fights at featherweight, Firo fights at flyweight. But so taking that away, beating 271 Hatis Uzart, I have no idea if I pronounced that correctly. 3-4 Carrie Hughes, 6-4 Judith Ruiz, 6-4 Janae Harding, who we know has a great deal of potential, but a great deal of like just complete flatness. 3-3 Jessica Borga, lost to Sinead Kavanagh, beat Danae Silva, who is 10-7. There is nothing impressive here. Now, does she have a chance? She certainly does. Zingano is in her 40s now. The fall off is imminent, and to be honest, I think it's already been there. Like, Zingano is not prime anymore, but I think she's still prime enough to probably win a decision here. McCourt doesn't get finished, so I guess it goes the distance. Zingano is a 420 to 480 favorite, And McCord is a plus 285 to plus 350. You might want to bet on McCord at that kind of underdog odds, to be honest, just because, again, Zingano is kind of old. But like at the same time, Zingano's losses are still, they still hold up incredibly well. Ronda Rousey, Juliana Pena, Ketlin Vieira. That's a fantastic run right there of losses, admittedly, but that's like a fantastic run of fighters. And then, of course, the weird eye injury with Megan Anderson. And to be clear, if you're not a dominant wrestler, I think losing to Megan Anderson is not even really a problem. John Salter versus Aaron Jeffrey. This fight's got a little bit of juice on it because Jeffrey has been really angry that he's not getting credit for the Austin Vanderford win. He believes like the toxicity of like, because he's, you know, dating PVZ and people want to like downplay him constantly. They're DMing him and tweeting him that like Vanderford sucks all the way through after he beat him, and it's like you're just disregarding this guy. And I get it. But I also kind of get it. I never really hopped on the Vanderford bandwagon. Not that he was bad. He was a top end like regional middleweight, which, you know, Bellator is, you know, a little bit above that, whatever. But, you know, it was still a good win. It's still a very solid win, but it didn't shift my perspective on Aaron Jeffrey. And I think the problem with Aaron Jeffrey is actually over familiarity here. I've seen him. I've watched him live as he was on the come up and everything. And I just don't think he's physical enough. Like he's a pretty well put together fighter in like every regard. He's got like that kind of Muay Thai game to him. He's got a good grappling game. He's got a good wrestling game. But there's no wow factor physically. There's no super speed, super power, super strength that he possesses that can do anything. And historically, you've needed something like that to beat John Salter. Salter's been beaten 6 times, so obviously it can be done. But we're talking Johnny Eblen, fantastic fighter. We're talking Gegard Mousasi, fantastic fighter. We're talking Rafael Lovato Jr., fantastic fighter. Yes, he does have a guillotine loss way back in the day to Reggie Pena, 2012. That's not great. And I guess you could say that like Jeffrey is kind of like Dan Miller, who beat him in the UFC. But that was back when I think Salter was not really capable of grappling. And he is now. Like that was when he was like kind of really just a wrestler. I'm going with Salter by decision. He is the underdog here, plus 265 to plus 320. So there are people who are believing in Aaron Jeffrey. He's minus 400, minus 450. I would not bet on that line. I would not bet on Jeffrey at that line. No. Even if I thought he was going to win this fight, like replace John Salter with like a slightly downgraded opponent who I think Aaron Jeffrey is going to beat, I would not be betting on that line. I think Salter has the power, the wrestling, the grappling to get this done. And I'll probably place a bet on him. This fight is tomorrow. Jaleel Willis versus Rustam Avalov. This is the other weird line because Willis is a minus 150 to minus 180 favorite, which is not much of a favorite, mind you. But Habeloff at plus 110 to plus 155. I get that Habeloff is coming up here. Like he's coming up to 170. He hasn't fought in a while. Whatever. But like dude was still a remarkably competitive fighter in the UFC when he departed the company. We're talking about a guy whose 4 losses are to Diego Ferreira, very good fighter. Adriano Martins, very good fighter. Benson Henderson, very good fighter. I'm not super familiar with this guy. He lost a split decision on the Russian scene to Ruslan Kashikhanov. I don't think I've ever seen that fight. That one doesn't hold up all that well because he's got like 11 losses. But you know, his losses in the UFC very, 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 very good. Like, you know, and granted, his wins are in the UFC were not spectacular, like Sergey Kanjoshko, Cajun Johnson, Des Green, Jason Shago, Leandro Silva, Chris Wade, Norman Park. 2013 variant, George Masvidal, Vince Pichel, Yancy Medeiros. These are all failed fighters in their own way, lacking either in a physical aspect or a technical aspect or whatever. You know, they have gaps you could drive a truck through. But dude is a serviceable striker. He is a very, very good wrestler, very, very good grappler. Jaleel Willis did beat Kyle Crutchmer recently in his last fight. And Kyle Crutchmer is a good wrestler, but I feel like Haveloff is better. Like, I've always thought Crutchmer is a little bit too plodding. A little bit too limited on his entries. Don't get me wrong, still a good win. And I think Jaleel Willis has, like, you know, a future at welterweight as a Bellator regular. I think he's a good fighter. But there's nothing amazing about him. Like, he's not a finisher. There's no significant power. He can be very, very slick as a boxer at times. There are moments in kind of every fight where he shows off something and you just go, nice. Very nice. But he's not super varied as a striker. Not super powerful. Not particularly fast. You know, fast, but not some amazing stud athlete. Like, he's just kind of a well put together fighter. And that feels like something Haveloff can still deal with. I mean, I know he's been away a while. He hasn't fought in some time. And I think he's 36 now? Yeah. 36. He's 3 months older than I am. Wow. Almost to the day, 3 months older. That's impressive. Anyways. You know, the combat Sambo, Dagestani style of wrestling. Yeah, no, I still think I think he gets this done. I do think he gets this done. Like, I know he hasn't fought since 2019. There is reason to be concerned. This should be a tight betting line, but I still think he should be the favorite. I've got Haveloff by decision because he is also himself not necessarily a finisher. Sullivan Cauley versus Luke Traynor. This is the biggest test of Sullivan Cauley's brief career, obviously, in multiple ways, actually. Because Traynor is 6'6", which is 4 inches taller than him and 6.5 inches of extra reach. So, you know, that's impressive. But I am a believer in Cauley. He's a protege of Ryan Bader. He's another Arizona Sun Devil wrestler guy. Dude is a high-grade takedown artist. He's got high-grade physicality. He's learning to strike. Like, there are some ideas percolating in his brain about how to strike. He's kind of, honestly, he proto-Bader. Proto-Ryan Bader, basically. And Traynor, like I said, big dude. Big dude. Not a terrible fighter. But nothing wows you beyond the height. Like, he comes out there and it's like, wow, you're a really tall dude. But, like, he's not a particularly great at utilizing that reach. Like, there's no amazing jab. There's not a particularly adept kicking game. There's a little bit. He's not Stefan Struve, who, you know, famously couldn't keep range. But, it is the biggest test of Cauley's career. He could obviously fail it. He's probably going to be. I'm probably going to be saying that about every fight from Cauley from now on because he's essentially fought no one. His last win against I remember his last name and it's not his first name. Jay Raddick, you know, undefeated fighter, whatever. But you know, Raddick also 39 years old. And a guy who came to the sport a little bit too late. Like, you know, it's the biggest challenge of his career, but I think he'll pass it. And I've got Cauley by TKO. The only finish I think I'm picking on the main card. Undercard real quick. I don't really have a ton to say about the undercard outside of the one fight that I talked about in the intro. We are talking about we are talking about Adam Piccolotti versus Mandel Nallo. I've got Piccolotti winning that fight. Piccolotti is not an amazing fighter by any means. I think that is proven. But, like, you know, he's the wheat from the chaff kind of guy. He'll still probably win this fight. Pam Sorensen against Sarah Collins. Sarah Collins is undefeated. Looks like kind of athletic and everything, but 3-0 against nobody's on the Australian scene. So, Pam Sorensen. Joey Davis is a massive favorite against Jeff Crichton. Should be. Picking him. I'm picking Justin Montalvo. I actually be interested. I closed the betting odds site. I'm wondering who the favorite is here because both of them are like kind of prospects. Montalvo is the underdog. Not surprised on that. I don't know. Something about Colgan throws me off. But I'm going with Montalvo. Lucas Brennan is getting a highlight fight against Josh San Diego. He'll win that. Lance Gibson Jr. versus Vladimir Tokov. Like I said, this is the interesting one. Like, Tokov is a good wrestler, has some ideas of what to do, but is prone to, like, just getting out scrambled. And Lance Gibson Jr. has got scrambles. This could be my patriotic upside here. Lance Gibson Jr. is a Canadian and one that has looked incredibly impressive on the way up. But I'm picking him to win here, and I know he's the underdog. Coming in at, what is it currently? Anywhere from plus 143 to plus 160. You can get that 160. I like that. I like that betting on. Talkoff is a minus 175 to minus 200 favorite. So, yeah, no, I've got Gibson. And that pretty much does it for the Bellator card. Like, there's some other stuff on here, but it is absolute card filler. Like, I like Randy Field, and I like Ashley Cummins, but they're both really limited fighters. Christian Edwards versus Raheem Cleveland is like regional heavyweight action. Mike Hamill versus Nick Brown. Not really a big fan of either guy. Bryce Meredith versus Brandon Carrillo. I don't know either guy, and I'm not looking up guys who have 4 combined fights. And that's kind of the same thing with Maria Henderson and Mackenzie Stiller. Pardon me. Yeah, so there you go. Oh, man, J.J. Wilson was supposed to be on this card. I love J.J. Wilson. He's so fun. He's been replaced by Piccolotti. Okay. PFL. Let's talk about PFL here. So we got Brandon Logan versus Marlon Moraes. I can't trust Moraes. You're going to be seeing this pretty much throughout the entire run of Moraes in PFL. Dude is fragile at this point. He's losing speed. He doesn't have the venom and the power that he used to. He still hits hard, I imagine. Still, can at moments look like the old Marlon Moraes. But no, he's just constantly losing. The one thing I will say here is Logan is not a huge finisher. He's not hugely venomous. He likes to, he likes to mix things up, be a grappler and a striker, throw a lot of volume. Kind of the MMA meta right now, and usually wins by decision. Although he did finish Bubba Jenkins. So I am picking Logan to win by TKO here. He is a prohibitive favorite at minus 650 to minus 700. Moraes is plus 400 to plus 500. I wish Moraes had retired after his UFC run, because it's just going to get sad. Because these are fights, like, honestly, you list everybody in this tournament. These are all guys that Moraes would have picked his teeth with during his prime. And we're going to watch him lose a lot. Rob Wilkinson versus Thiago Santos. This is my main event. Wilkinson has 4 inches of reach, and he's an inch taller, but dude doesn't really fight long. Like, he is a messy pocket striker. He will give Santos the ability to hit him. Santos is in the Moraes mold in the sense that he is way past his prime. He is not title contender in the UFC, Thiago Santos, anymore. He is not impressive knockout guy, Thiago Santos, anymore. He's still dangerous. I think he still hits hard. His game was never the most technical or deep. Like, that's kind of the weird thing is, like, during the lead up to the John Jones Cyril Gane fight, people were trying to big up, like, Santos' striking game as a reason why, like, Gane wasn't going to be a threat to Jones. And they look like geniuses now. Although, I will say, the reasons Gane was not a threat was that Gane apparently can't grapple and has no grappling instincts. But anyways, I'm taking Wilkinson. I trust him to make this a messy affair. I don't think Santos can stop it from being a messy affair. Santos has shown a willingness to grapple and take down people, and Wilkinson is not an amazing grappler. But he's also not like an absolute garbage takedown defender. So I don't really see it working. Santos is not a good takedown artist. And I see him getting TKO'd at some point here. He is the plus 138 to plus 160 underdog. Wilkinson is a minus 190 or minus 180 to minus 190 favorite. I think that's fine. Christoph Yako will beat Will Fleury. Will Fleury is a big guy. Like, he's a reasonably decently sized 205er. Of course, Yako is coming up from middleweight. A pattern on this card, which is a lot of like ex-UFC guys going up in weight classes to weight classes we're not overly familiar with them being at. Marlon Moraes to featherweight, Epika Saganai at 205, Yatko at 205. These are all examples of that. But I don't see what Fleury does. Like, he's fine, but he's not amazing. And Yatko's a guy who admittedly lost very, very, very badly towards the end of his UFC run to Brendan Allen, and I did not see that coming. But he's a guy who does have wins over Jiro Mershart, Misha Cirkunov, Eric Anders, Marc-Andre Barrio. Like these are the meh guys. He's an excellent control grappler. He pairs that with a reasonably effective striking game. Yeah, I've got him winning a decision here. I will probably never pick him to like finish anybody. But hey, he'll do it. Movliv. Oh man, I could never say this guy's wrong. Hebelayev versus Ryoji Kudo. I don't think highly of Kudo, and he's a plus 440 to plus 550 underdog here. Habalayev is minus 700, minus 901. Habalayev's good. Like he's really solid fighter. He'll get the job done here. He is what you expect from someone with his name. A guy who wrestles very, very well, controls people, does the thing. Does not finish a ton. He does have a really cool jumping knee knockout in 10 seconds over Damon Jackson, UFC fighter Damon Jackson. And I think he actually did lose to Pineda. I think Pineda got that, or Daniel Pineda. I think Pineda got that win overturned. Am I correct on that? Am I right that is the case? Originally a win for Pineda. The fight was later changed to no contest when he tested positive for testosterone. Yeah, but like Daniel Pineda is also a madman. Anyways, yeah. Kudo is not that. He's your standard like filler from the Japanese regional scene. Chris Wade, Bubba Jenkins rematch. It's close on the betting odds. Minus 160 to 190 for Wade. Plus 138 to plus 148 for Jenkins. It should be close because the first fight was reasonably close. Jenkins still really good athlete, really good wrestler. Has moments on the feet where he looks really competent. But I've said this about Bubba Jenkins, and I will probably say it every time I break down a fight of his. Dude does not want to build a functional style. He wants to build this like slickster style that will continuously lose him fights. Nothing has really changed since these two fought the first time. It's not like Jenkins has been focusing on anything to fix the specific challenges of Chris Wade. It's not like Jenkins hasn't shown the exact same weaknesses against other fighters. I've got Wade by decision again. I legitimately hope to be wrong. Because Chris Wade is as good as he's going to get. Like, Chris Wade is not an exciting prospect. Never really was. Bubba Jenkins was at one time a very exciting prospect that has never panned out. And, like, I still kind of wish he would. Because it would be interesting. Martin Hamlet versus Mohamed Fakhreddin. I am going with Hamlet to win this fight. He is the favorite, minus 163, minus 168. Fakhreddin coming in at plus 120 to plus 143. Essentially, this comes down to Fakhreddin wins by flashy first-round finish a lot of the time. And that was in Brave CF. And Brave CF is not a bad promotion or anything, but it's a regional promotion that is not known for producing big fighters. As in, like, their 205, their 265, 185, etc. These are not deep divisions. These are not particularly good. When they wander outside of Brave, or at least the region, it does not go particularly well. And yes, Hamlet got trucked by Josh Silvaria, and also has a first-round loss to Antonio Carlos Jr. But I don't think that is indicative of how Fakhreddin can take advantage of anything. Hamlet just kind of better everywhere. I have him by decision. He's not much of a finisher. Josh Silvaria, speaking of him, versus Sam Kai. Sam Kai is the guy who's in this tournament just continues to lose. He's a former heavyweight, so like maybe he'll be abnormally huge, and he's like reasonably durable, but like he is not good. He is not good. I've got Silvaria by TKO. He is an exciting fight finishing guy. Throws with power. Throws with creativity. Let him loose. Let him pick up the win. Perfect tournament open matchmaking for him. Alejandro Flores versus Daniel Torres. This one's a lot more interesting. They feel very similar. They like to be volume strikers, hard workers, exist in other places, reasonably well-rounded. I've got Flores by basically having faced a slightly higher level of competition than Torres. But Tapology does love Torres, so there may be something to that. And the betting lines also love Torres because he's a minus 240 to minus 250 favorite. That's too wide on either guy. I feel like these two guys are very, very similar, and this fight will be determined by like some very, very small moments. Sumbing Joy versus Jesus Pineda. I'm going with Joy. Dude's got some good counters. Pineda will throw his chin out there. Will be open to getting hit. Is aggressive. Will face check punches. And Joe hits hard, counters well. I got him by TKO. He is a minus 170 to minus 200 favorite. Pinedo is plus 140 to plus 150. I'm also picking Delon Monte. This fight not super interesting. It's Ty Flores. I like the nuts and bolts of Flores' game. It's fine, but dude has been knocked out 3 times. Monte hits really, really hard. He is incredibly flawed in terms of a structural standpoint. Like he is, well, he's kind of like a better version of oh crap, I'm blanking on the name. Daniel James from the Bellator card relies a little bit too much on the knockout for my tastes, but he does go out there and he does, he does generally deliver on that regard. You have to be pretty good to withstand him. And like I said, Flores seems, Flores number 2, White Flores, I'll call him, seems kind of fragile. So I'm going with him. Monte is a minus 190 to minus 200 favorite. Flores plus 140 to plus 166 feels about right. Ipa Kazanganai fighting at 205 opens up the card. Kazanganai was a 170er, which is the main problem with him at 205 for me. I actually really like him. I think he was putting together a good little kickboxing and grappling game with good power, good athleticism, good physicality. I don't think losing to Joaquin Buckley and Carlson Harris should have got him released from the UFC. I assume he ran out of contract as opposed to actually getting cut. Maybe wanted more money. I don't know. But I do worry about it because like he was at 170 and 185, and even his wins at 185, because he does have two of his notable wins are at 185, Macapitolo and Jared Gooden. Jared Gooden, though, is a welterweight. And Macapitolo has always been an unphysical middleweight. So I'm worried. He's better than Hendricks at everything. Straight up. I don't like Hendricks. Well, I shouldn't say I don't like Hendricks' game. I'm unimpressed with it as I think I swallowed a bug. But excuse me. Hendricks is just filler in these tournaments, I think. Like he'll come up with like the occasional big win. Let me pull up his record here real quick. I recall him doing some cool things like ground and pounding Emilio Sordi. That was cool. Rear naked choking Martine Hamlet. That was cool. But like we're also talking about a guy who lost the rematch to Hamlet and lost to Chris Camozzi at 205. Speaking of a guy who doesn't belong at 205, Chris Camozzi. I'm going Kazanganai by decision, but I am nervous about it just because of the size discrepancy. All right. Let's talk. All right. If you're just here for the fight picks, I'm going into the personal opinions here. So first up, I got Fighter Pay here. An article got published about the first ever minor league baseball CBA and the payment levels of that. And a lot of the UFC shows are like, see, they make comparable money they make more money than the minor league baseball players. So, like, here's the blunt thing. Minor league baseball is minor. The UFC is supposed to be the major leagues of MMA. It is. It's the biggest MMA promotion in the world. Minor league baseball would be like comparing the paychecks of minor league baseball to LFA or Fury FC. Like, that would be the comparison, not the UFC. It ignores also that there's a number of advantages to being on a minor league team because you do get access to their coaching facilities, their trainers, their equipment. Whereas in the UFC, unless you want to train at the UFC PI as your main camp, which has not gone well for anybody, you are using up a large chunk of your cash, your pay, to pay your coaches. And you're also at times required to handle your own transport, which minor league baseball pays for. And minor league baseball, even some of the owners actually do pay for housing. They'll maintain a couple of rental apartments for players. So there's even that kind of added bonus. It's just not a level playing field at all. And if you want to look at the pay, because somebody was arguing I would like to see the gates of minor league teams. It's got to be huge. Minor league baseball, the owners of minor league baseball have honestly stated that if the team breaks even or makes $1 million, if the team breaks even, they've done well. If they break $1 million, they've done exceptionally well. The UFC makes billions. We're talking about $1 billion industry versus minor league baseball here, guys. Please stop. Please stop. Valentina Shevchenko has come out pretty anti-Jason Herzog and largely seems to be blaming the refereeing for the loss of her title, specifically the stand-up. Here's the thing. You can think what you want about the stand-up. There are some people that passionately believe it was a bad stand-up and whatever. But here's the thing. Refs will make bad calls. We know this. The standard of UFC reffing, MMA reffing in general, and judging as well, is incredibly low. So if you're going to blame, like every fighter has a story about a loss where a ref made a questionable call, or a win where the ref made a questionable call and got it for them. It is ridiculous to think about that, particularly when nothing the referee did forced Valentina Shevchenko to back up to the cage, throw a spinning back kick, get her back taken, and choked out. That is an incredibly bad decision-making pattern right there. And you also have the Santos fight, which she also thinks Herzog didn't help her with in their Herzog fight. To that one, I don't even understand. I think she's literally referring to the low blow that she got called for in that one, which was a foul. So I don't really know what her problem there is. Where she also made incredibly bad decisions, where she continuously went for the head and arm throw, the sacrifice throw, where you do let the fighter possibly have your back, and Santos took her back and controlled her for large stretches from the back. Both fights, not to put Grasso and Santos down, but both fights were about Shevchenko's terrible decision making, not about the reffing, not about the opponent in a lot of ways. She's slowing down. She's no longer at her physical apex, and her physical apex trained her to have this completely, honestly disrespectful style where she doesn't think anyone can do anything about her. Like, if you watch her fights, she fights everyone kind of the same. She fights everyone kind of in a bully fashion. And at some point, the physicality is going to lack there. So, I was, right after the Grasso-Shevchenko fight, pretty sure I was going to pick Shevchenko in the rematch. But seeing her come out now, and it's about, no. I would throw the spinning back kick again. The referee screwed up, and that's why I lost. My lord. This woman has learned nothing from these last two fights. All right. And then we'll finish up with the Holly Holm bit. I am, of course, talking about Protect the Children. Here's the thing. Holly Holm said Protect the Children at the end of her fight against Yana Santos, which she won. Her dreaded one last thing. I am not going to tell you what Holly Holm thinks. I don't know. I don't mind read. I don't. Maybe what she means is beauty pageants or homeless people being exploited. Maybe she means school shootings, because there was another school shooting this week. Maybe this is what she means. But words have subtextual meaning to them at any given time. If you were to go back to the rise of the Bolsheviks in Soviet Union, the rise of the Nazis in Germany, the Maoists in China, the rise of Che Guevara in the Caribbean, and Fidel Castro, you will find a number of slogans, sayings, combinations of words that absolutely seem harmless. Absolutely don't. They seem like protect the children. This is a noble idea. Children should be protected. Yes. But they mean something else within the political climate of the time. And right now, like it or not, the right wing of the United States, as well as other countries, has taken protect the children to be an anti-trans, anti-gay thing. We shouldn't learn about homosexuality in school. We should just ignore its existence. We should make being transgender essentially illegal because we want to deny medical care on the matter. We want to, stop the diagnosis and whatever. That is the environment we live in. And if you're going to use the phrase protect the children, you're going to go out there and you're not going to get specific. That's the interpretation that that people are going to have. It's the interpretation that people should have. And there's this idea like, oh no, you can't know. The best example of this was on a more amusing topic, a less serious topic. There was a former UFC fighter. At least the Twitter name is a former UFC fighter. I don't remember if he was verified, so I don't want to give the name because it might be like, not him essentially. But it would be a weird MMA fighter to impersonate on Twitter, and it's a weird name. It was like roasting KGB Lee for, and I will say this, I have no love lost for KGB Lee, but was roasting her for saying that Volkanovski and Islam Makhachev were ugly men. I'm not here to comment on that one way or the other. I'm not into dudes. But his logic was, could you imagine if a male MMA fighter were to say this about female fighters and the backlash they would receive? No, I don't have to imagine that. It happens. And then his excuse was, well, I've never seen it happen. It's like, okay, then you're blind. It's the same thing with like Holly Holm and Protect the Children. If you don't know about the anti-trans movement in the United States, if you don't know about the anti-gay movement in the United States, your head has been in the sand. And we know, and to be clear, we know Holly Holm is part of that movement because she has QAnon theories in the past. She communicates with like people who do peddle in this stuff on Twitter. So it's whatever. Am I saying like Holly Holm is like an evil person or this should affect your viewer? No. I've always said this. You shouldn't take MMA fighters' politics seriously, period. Even when they agree with mine, I don't take them seriously. These are people who are not wired correctly. They get punched in the head for comparatively little money to get CTE and and should not realistically be your guidance on the morality of trans, gay, or who you're going to vote for in the next election. Like it shouldn't be. Like it doesn't matter if it's Jacob Volkman, if it's Colby Covington, Holly Holm. I'm trying to think of a really pro. Really pro left wing one that was like going out there. I want to be equal opportunity on this one. The only one I'm coming up with is like Tyron Woodley, but he was talking about Black Lives Matter, which actually was something he had a basis of talking about because he's from Ferguson. So there was some interesting insights there. Damn, who the heck is it? Who the heck is a big Bernie bro? MMA Bernie bros. I'm looking. This has wants me to disable ad block. I'm not doing that. It's just a lot of like kind of generalizations here. Apparently Herbert Burns. Apparently Bilal Muhammad. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Johnny Munoz, apparently. All right, so there's a couple here, but like none of those people should like actually convince you that it's right. Like it's not exactly a high political standard there. You know, if it inspires you to go look into the actual policies and whatever, please go ahead. You can take inspiration from anyone, but I do kind of I do kind of think like the political value of like MMA fighters should be next to nothing. It should be like guy on the street level. Like they're entitled to their opinions and everything. But it shouldn't move people. But we do live in a world where it does. So there you go. Anyways, that'll finish it up. I will see you guys after the fights on Sunday. So have a good one.